3, 2, 1. What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from He the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday evening, maybe not so fantastic, of what's brewing down there in the Gulf right now and the hurricane coming. What feels like, and practically off the latest reports, straight to Tallahassee there in the Panhandle area. But we're still going to try to pump this through, D-Lou. I know you're down there. You're up there in Tallahassee, and I know a lot of other FSU fans and the entire football program, the university, are preparing for this nasty hurricane that just got put up to a Category 4, projected to be upon landfall, and who knows what else this thing could strengthen into. But we're going to be here. We won't be here for so long. Got to let D-Lou get prepared for the storm and everything. But we've got a handful of things to talk about this evening. Nonetheless, Florida State got its first win. We're going to get last thoughts from Dustin on Florida State versus SMU, Florida State versus Cal. And then we're going to jump into some comments on Nick Saban, what he said on College Game Day regarding the transfer portal and Florida State's usage there. We're going to talk some NFL Noles. Keon Coleman scored his first NFL career touchdown. Jarian Jones got injured for the Jaguars. We've got an update there, and we're going to talk some Braden Fisk, Jared Verse as well. Johnny Wilson, too, involved. And then we're going to jump into this Florida State versus SMU game. First true road game for the Seminoles, going in a more hostile environment this time. And we'll give our score predictions at the very end of this. But with me this evening is Dustin Lewis, our editor-in-chief at NoleGameday.com. And then up above is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer and FSU guy. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
It's a great time. Good time to be on the podcast. You know, not a lot else going on, obviously, at the moment. And nothing more important on Wednesday night than being here for this podcast to preview FSU versus SMU. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of days, maybe longer than that in Tallahassee. You know, obviously with the storm coming in, and, you know, at least me and I know a couple of other people as well are sticking around in Tallahassee. And I know people who have decided to head out of Tallahassee, you know, to get away from the storm. So we'll just see what happens. But, you know, everyone who does decide to stay, just, you know, stay safe.
It's about to get wet. That's all I know.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, it's going to be.
I mean,
it's going to get rainy.
5 to 8 inches, I heard. I'm sure that's what they're forecasting. I didn't.
5 to your house. Coming to your house, 5 to 8 inches
in Tallahassee, in this area, Tallahassee included.
Okay, good amount of inches coming.
It's a decent amount.
That is coming. Hope you're prepared for it fully and you're stocked up and everything. D-Lou.
No sandbags.
No sandbag. You're going. Yeah, you didn't stock up anything on the plywood, anything on the windows, anything of that nature.
No, I got a lot of hope.
You better have a lot of hope.
Works.
Yeah, there's a question here from Spartan Noel. Any wordage on when Florida State plans to fly out? It's Friday, correct?
Yeah, they normally fly out the day before the game for, you know, the manageable trips, and I believe that's the plan for this week. And, you know, Mike Norvell was saying after practice the last 2 days that they've got a plan A, and then they've got some other plans beyond that. So they're just kind of continuing to monitor the forecast at this time. But, you know, it's tough to believe that hurricane coming in, obviously on Thursday night. It seems like around that 8 to 10 p.m. time. And it's a pretty big storm from what it seems like. So I do wonder if they decide to stick with that plan and fly out on Friday morning, how exactly that's going to look over there at the Tallahassee airport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems pretty risky. I have a flight tomorrow morning outside leaving Tampa, but that got canceled fully. The airport shut down after 2 a.m. and our flight was going to be at 5 a.m. Now we're trying to change it to Orlando, but God knows that that's going to be open, and God knows the delays and all that kind of stuff, but all for a wedding, and hopefully fingers crossed we can get up there. But nonetheless, though, we still got a game to talk about. Florida State just got their first win, D-Lou. I know you were stoked about that. You couldn't come on here and give your instant reaction to what was not a fun game to watch. It was really, really rough to watch from the TV and on the couch, and I feel like that's hard to do when you have an open fridge of beers near you and something to drink to help cushion you a little bit and ease your mind. But so I couldn't imagine in the press box, there's none of that up there. It's just a little bit of nothing really. You got a couple Gatorades that you could use to help yourself, but
Powerade, no Gatorade.
yeah, that's right. No Gatorades. My bad.
Get that
My bad.
right.
Sorry, Odell. Sorry. I promise. I don't think he watches this anyways. But yeah, D-Lou, jump us into your last thoughts on Florida State's win against Cal 14-9.
Yeah, a win's a win, right? I mean, it definitely wasn't a pretty outing for Florida State, but when you considering what this team had looked like in the pre-games prior, and obviously winless going into that game against Cal, already 0-2 in the ACC, coming off that loss to a Group of 5 opponent who, lost to Navy over the weekend. But Florida State, they needed this game. I mean, any way they could get it. It didn't matter if it was 7-6. They just needed a victory on the schedule at this point. And, it wasn't pretty to watch. As you guys have said, it was a gritty defensive effort. I mean, from both sides, and Florida State obviously really struggled on offense. They're only scoring on 2 out of 11 possessions. And, in between those touchdown drives, a lot of moments where you're just sitting there scratching your head, whether it's from the player perspective and, missing throws or missing blocks, dropping passes, whatever those mistakes are, to kind of the coaching decisions as well, because Florida State there in that second quarter in field goal range 2 times, and first time decide to punt it, pin Cal back there. That decision seemed to work out in the end for Florida State. But then the second time, go forward on 4th and 7 rather than kicking a field goal in Ryan Fitzgerald's range, in that kind of lower 50-yard area. And we've seen him connect on multiple 50-yard field goals already this season. And that was at a point where the game was 7-3. So I mean, right there before the half, you got a chance to kick that field goal, go up by a touchdown, and you're thinking Cal, they're going to get the ball coming out in the third quarter. You at least want to have a touchdown lead. Instead, that one didn't work, and then Cal is able to get in field goal range and make it a 1-point game going into the half. So I mean, you come out of this one, and there's still there's more questions than answers still offensively, and this was the most balanced game that we saw Florida State play. I mean, finally able to get over that 100-yard mark on the ground. You saw a little bit there from Lawrence Toafili. Cam Davis sprinkled in some as well. And the passing game, it was inconsistent, but they did hit some big plays there. This game was obviously won defensively for Florida State, and that defensive line racking up 7 sacks and the young guys getting involved from the veterans. So it was – these guys are messaging me in the side chat here to wrap it up. But, it was what – That's exactly what's happened. This was what Florida State needed. They needed a victory.
No, I wrote last instead of last thoughts on FSU versus Cal. I had LAS, LAS. No, so we're not talking about wrapping it up. Keep it going. We're chilling.
Like
we're just
speed up button, but
no.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at that Florida State defense. They did give up over 400 yards, and some of those third down conversions were really tough to watch. But they buckled down there in the red zone. Only allowed Cal to score on 3 out of 5 trips. Didn't give up a touchdown, which was impressive considering what we've seen from them so far early in the season. Benefited from a couple of those missed field goals, but that's what we saw from this defense last year. Teams were able to kind of work the field a little bit between the 20-yard lines, and then when they got to the red zone, that was where this defense really stepped up and performed for the Seminoles. So I thought that was encouraging, and the defensive line finally living up to what we thought coming into the season. Marvin Jones Jr. getting those 2 sacks, I think that's going to be huge for him, and it could really help him moving forward to have had a performance like that. Patrick Payton, a career-high 3 sacks. He was all over the place. Joshua Farmer, I mean, man, he was terrific from the beginning to the end of that game, and, kind of building on what we saw last week in that loss against Memphis. Feels like he's starting to find his footing. Saw a little bit from Daryl Jackson there. So this Florida State defense may be starting to find its stride at the right time, and they obviously need it going into this week against an SMU offense that scored 66 points.
Mm-hmm. That's what VZ and I were talking about, and that instant reaction. If Florida State isn't able to put up a good amount of points and give themselves a shot on the offensive side, SMU is going to outscore them. And, we'll talk about our score predictions later, but it's hard to tell if Florida State can stay in this game going into second half or the fourth quarter if SMU is going to stay hot. But Florida State's defense, once again, is going to have to come in and carry. But I think I want to go back to Marvin Jones Jr. because we were so high on him going throughout this whole entire offseason. And now you see the effort. It seemed like the effort changed, but also it seems like he's putting himself in the right positions. But really, I think it all started with the foundation of urgency from him and bringing pressure, and also just playing harder, and some things that we looked on film just didn't seem to be that way. So maybe that could have been something that now puts a fire to him, and he gets some consistency going from him, because that would be huge to match on with Pat Payton on the other side, and what you already have with Sione Lolohe. And, I think Joshua Farmer and that interior defensive line too. Really Joshua Farmer, Daryl Jackson, I thought too was solid, but Farmer, I mean, he was a monster in that game, and that's something that you look to as being your leader. And on that entire defense, you're projecting one of your most talented players to play a factor in Florida State winning these games moving forward, because they've got to try to get off the field and give the offense as many potential shots as possible, or really try to help flip the field, because the offense is not finding production at the moment, and I don't know if it will for the rest of the season at this rate.
Just to build on the pressures on the defensive line real quick. Sorry. Florida State was credited with 28 total pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. That's something we talked about last week, was Cal doesn't have a great pass blocking offensive line. Florida State exploited that in every way possible. 7 pressures for Farmer, 6 pressures for Marvin Jones Jr., 4 for Derwin Jackson, 3 for Payton. He turned all 3 of those into sacks. I mean, even some of the corners are getting in there and getting pressures, but 28 pressures is insane, considering that didn't really seem like a very high possession game.
Yeah, and it felt like one of those games from the Florida State defense that we saw last year where, I mean, they were really blitzing in a variety of ways, whether it was bringing linebackers, bringing defensive backs. You saw Edwin Joseph obviously get in there on that last play with half a sack. And, that was something I feel like we haven't seen a ton. Maybe it was just because they were struggling a little bit and kind of on their heels. But, in this game, they really found their footing. And it was impressive to see the way that they were getting after the quarterback and, just sticking with Marvin Jones Jr. This is a guy who we've obviously given a good amount of criticism to so far early in the season. He hasn't lived up to those expectations and kind of what we saw from him in the spring and in some of those fall camp practices. That second half Marvin Jones Jr., that was the guy that we were seeing. And Adam Fuller said as much on Monday, Mike Norvell has talked about wanting to translate from the practice field to game day, and Marvin Jones Jr., he finally did that against Cal. And, you got to hope that he can keep it going from here and just build off this momentum, because, it felt like, you're starting to see that smile again. He's feeling good about himself, had a good week of practice as well this week, and hopefully he can carry this into SMU and just kind of keep building on this positive momentum.
He's still got to be better as a run defender. Like, his PFF rush defense grade was the worst on the team at 39.2. So he's still got to be better about shedding blocks in the run game, especially against SMU, which we'll talk about that in, 30 minutes or so whenever we get to the preview. But he's at least getting the pass rush, which is something we expected.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but, you got to take the positives where you can with how this season has started. If you do look at PFF and, the overall defensive grades, Marvin Jones Jr. and Patrick Payton are actually the 2 defenders on the team with the highest missed tackle rate so far for Florida State. And, obviously that kind of plays into what we've seen with their struggles stopping the run so far. And, this was a good game for Florida State to beat Cal to get this victory, but they've still got to do it again. This is a performance that you can't just have once. This is the team that's the defense, at least. This is the defense that's got to show up every Saturday. They've still got some stuff to clean up because you gave up too many conversions on 3rd down. You gave up a long 4th down conversion to Cal. I mean, they had a chance to go down there and win the game at the end. And prior to that, Florida State, there was an opportunity to shut the door. I think it was like a 3rd and 18 or whatever it was that Cal converted, a 3rd and long there in the 4th quarter. So you want to see them get that done a little bit earlier, not wait all the way until Cal gets to the 12 and, shot themselves in the foot a little bit. And then Florida State's able to get there and finish it with the sacks, finish this game a little bit earlier. But the Seminoles also, they could have finished it on their terms on offense, but went 3 and out.
Yeah, the player talking about real quick. 4th quarter, 4 minutes, 38 seconds left, 3rd and 14. And Fernando Mendoza just gets 26 yards on the ground by himself. And I think part of these issues, Logan and I talked about this Saturday after the show. I think part of their issues could be helped by the offense being able to sustain drives. Florida State only had 2 drives longer than 3 minutes. And that's not good enough in today's age of college football. We saw it in the first 2 games. Georgia Tech and Boston College won those games because they were able to control the ball, control the clock, limit possessions. It's hard to do that when your defense is on the field repeatedly, especially there in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just going to some pluses, how do you feel? And what was it like seeing guys like Edwin Joseph and Quindarius Jones to you? You and I were really high on those 2 guys early on when they arrived in Tallahassee, and even going back to the elite camp for Quindarius. But just to see him and the PBUs he had and that physicality that he was bringing at the corner position, yeah, a little touchy here and there, but no flags were called, and just also the energy. And it seems like he's kind of turned into a vocal guy a little bit. Seems to always bring that tenacity at practice, and you already know what you have with Edwin Joseph too. And it's kind of now hard for Adam Fuller and Coach Surtain not to want to put these guys out there to get some more playing time with the way that they're playing.
That was awesome. That possession by Quindarius there in the second quarter. Cal backed up, and he's able to get 3 straight pass breakups and celebrating, showing off some energy, getting the crowd fired up. It really felt like at that point, the momentum was on Florida State's side, seeing a younger guy like that make a play. And, you're even seeing the veterans celebrate that. And that's something that Florida State's coaching staff has obviously pushed, to have fun out there on the field, to celebrate when someone else makes a big play, like you made a big play. And we saw some of that. But yeah, Quindarius, this is obviously a guy that we've talked about at length throughout the offseason, someone who we're very high on. Florida State, his only offer coming out of high school, and now he's getting out there on the field as a sophomore. You see that length with him, the athleticism, the ability to compete, and the physicality and coverage. I mean, I think the sky is really the limit for this kid, and you're only going to see him getting more and more involved after what he was able to do with those game reps. And you look at Edwin, I mean, another one, a guy who started to grow in this preseason, had that stretch of practices where I think it was 4 interceptions over 5 practices, something like that, and had some good performances in those scrimmages. And, at a certain point, Florida State's going to ask these guys to translate that to the game. And that's going to determine, if they're able to step into a role earlier in their career. And Quindarius and Edwin, they took advantage of those opportunities. I think just 19 snaps for Edwin, and he's able to come away with his first career interception there. And also get there in that game-winning play at the end with the half a sack. So I feel like, you've obviously got 2 really talented outside corners in AZ and Ventrell, guys that are going to play in the NFL. But Quindarius and Edwin, the burst of energy that they can bring when they're in there making some of those splash plays, I think it's too much to pass up. I mean, you definitely have got to get them involved in that rotation more.
I brought up this hypothetical. I'm curious what you think about it. What about moving AZ to the inside on some plays and having Quindarius and Ventrell on the outside?
I mean, I love it. It makes you long and athletic everywhere on the defense. And, Kevin Noles, he isn't necessarily a small guy, but yeah, if you're able to put 3 6'1+ guys out there, and I think Ventrell, he's closer to 6'2" than 6'1", gives you a lot of defensive versatility. And then you're talking about Shaheem Brown probably at safety. We've been seeing a lot more of KJ Kirkland, who another guy who is a second-year player at Florida State, a second-year DB. And, we got to talk about Jabril Rawls as well, because he's getting involved there a little bit. Hasn't splashed as much as these other guys, but you're starting to see, these second-year players start to find their footing. And you can go even to linebacker with Blake Nicholson and Justin Cryer. But I think it's really impressive. Florida State, they've got a nice crop of young talent with that sophomore class, with the freshman class right now. Already seeing Cam Davis in there, Landon Thomas a little bit. Mike Norvell has talked highly about a lot of those guys. So, there are some really promising signs here, not only for the present with these guys getting involved, but what it's going to do for the future of Florida State potentially.
Mm-hmm. I do want to give some props here to a veteran wide receiver, Ja'Kai Douglas, who I feel like is going to be known, won't be talked about a whole ton, once his career is over at Florida State. But one thing that I'm going to remember a ton of is this guy and making big time plays for Florida State when they desperately needed, they're game-winning plays that this guy has made for Florida State, and it gets overlooked by some bigger names, usually year by year. And you're always looking at the 5 stars of Hakeem Williams and go back with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. But, they got to get him in the mix more, man. And that was a beautiful ball there from DJ. If you can show consistency with that, and also, Mike Norvell and he did give opportunities to DJ to do that. In this game, we saw the overshot there to Malik Benson, who I don't know if you saw it, D-Lou, but when Malik Benson had that overthrow, he was shaking his head and, was displeased about not getting the opportunity there because that was an easy 6 for them. But just going back to Ja'Kai Douglas, I think it's worth, mentioning his name because he was the, one of the game winners on this team to beat Cal. And, he kind of gets overlooked at times, but got to get him more involved in the deep ball. And that's something that I think we kind of overlooked, that he's not a deep ball threat. But then you're like, wait a second, this deep ball is going to the smallest guy on the field, and it's Ja'Kai Douglas. Got to get him in the groove and add him more around this offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's consistently, been one of those guys who steps up in the big time moments whenever he's called upon. You think back to 2021 Miami, that final drive, Ja'Kai's long reception eventually kind of helps lead to that 4th and 14 and game-winning touchdown. Last year, Johnny and Keon out at Pitt, Ja'Kai steps in and has his best performance of the season and some critical catches in that game where, it was really close in that first half against Pittsburgh. And then obviously this one, the game-winning touchdown pass at a time where Florida State really needed to win a football game. And Ja'Kai, another one of those guys, who brings the juice in practice. It was actually funny. Last week before the Cal game, he caught a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, and he was doing that same little dance that you saw him do on Saturday. But in practice, he called DJ over and made DJ do the dance with him. So I don't know if that kind of helped with the touchdown connection or what, but it seems like those two guys, they've got some good chemistry at the moment. They connected again today out there in practice. But yeah, really impressive to see from Ja'Kai, because when you look at his career receiving numbers, they don't really flash off the page to you. But when you look at the moments when he's made these plays, he's someone that, FSU fans, they're definitely going to talk about for a long time. And, a really good player and a guy who's going to continue to make some plays for FSU throughout the year.
You didn't happen to catch them at the water break and maybe building some energy?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Water break was nice today. I was a little bit worried. I was a little bit worried yesterday, but then you got to today and it was bouncing once again. The first 2 water breaks definitely notable. And after last week, you guys clowned the water break, but the water break might have led to the win.
Maybe it was only the defense that had a good water break last week, and maybe the offense can get around to it this week.
The defense was having a good water break, and they had a good water break today.
So it was a good water break.
Maybe something to watch out for.
That's what I'm saying. I put that in my that's why I picked Florida State to win. It was the water break energy. I gave you the props for it, for giving us the latest on that. If I would have known that we had water break, eyes on water break and stuff, and notes being taken during water break, I would have been jumping to you weekly on this to get the rundown. But now we know the energy was great. That was enough for me to go ahead and pick Florida State to win. But yeah, we got to continue. Pretty moderate this week.
8.1 out of 10. I'd say last week was more of a 9.3. Me and Robert were talking about. Robert went 7.5, but I thought it was a little bit better than 7.5.
Okay. Ooh, a little iffy. I'm already kind of.
He's been real critical lately, so.
Robert's dialed into that. He's taking notes and he's keeping us up to date. That's why we have him at NoleGameday.com right there. I'm trying to think of anything else that I want to comment on. I wanted to mention, we're talking some good stuff, and that's great. But, Cal put them in a position to also lose this game multiple times, flags, field goals, and it's not a great football team. So it's great Florida State got the win, and I'm glad we're talking the positives here. But Florida State's going to have to play way better than it did against Cal in order for us on here to pick Florida State to go over there on the road to beat SMU. So we'll have our score predictions here in a few. Any last comments, D-Lou, you want to mention here on the game that you're in attendance for?
No, just I agree. At the end of the day, Florida State did get lucky, but that's football sometimes. They got unlucky in the season opener with Georgia Tech making the game-winning field goal instead of getting a chance in overtime. So, sometimes the ball goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. And Florida State, they desperately needed that win, and you just got to hope that can kind of, now that they've seen that they can do it, go out there and get a victory, continue and push that forward from here.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump into some quick hitters real quick before we get into this SMU preview. Nick Saban was on College Game Day this past weekend and offered some comments on Florida State's usage in the transfer portal. Dustin's shaking his head. He hates Nick Saban. I'm interested to get his take here. He said, when it comes to Florida State, they've always taken the, in quote, microwave fix, I call it, to take a lot of guys from the portal. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't, especially when things go bad. All of those guys were in the portal for a reason. Is this shade at Florida State? I think FSU Twitter felt like it came off in that way. Nick Saban, just before the Georgia Tech game, was giving a lot of props to Florida State before the game there on College Game Day, giving them love because he was there in attendance for some of the practices during the week over there in Dublin, Ireland. And then now, a couple weeks later, and now these transfer portals don't seem to be what he was hyping up and giving love to in the first place. Is Nick Saban switching up like that quickly, gentlemen?
I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Like you said, a lot of praise for Florida State, and then things start to go wrong, and you start harping on some criticism. And yeah, it did kind of feel like a little bit of a shot at FSU, especially considering they took 5 players from Alabama in the portal. I mean, 5 players that Nick Saban coached last year are on this roster. So it kind of felt like a little bit of a dig at everyone involved. Obviously Mike Norvell was in talks to get that Alabama head coach job. And, I don't know. It felt a little weird.
The whole line of they're in the portal for a reason when 5 of his former players on Florida State's team just kind of sits weird with me. Like he's kind of also digging himself like, yeah, I didn't coach these guys well enough. That's kind of what he's saying in a way, if you look at it a roundabout way. It was just a weird quote, and I left it at that.
Nah, you're a lot nicer. FSU Twitter was, oh my God. Hopefully, there we go. Hey, there's a hurricane on the way, by the way, guys. Didn't know if y'all knew about that. Sweet deal. Awesome. Evacuation for Zone A, Pinellas County. Oh, I'm going to have to head out, guys. So if y'all want to go and finish off the rest of this show, definitely feel free to after. I think Dustin's going to be without power. I'm guessing, let's guess it. Over, under, Austin, 4.5 on days. Over, under.
Days? 4.5? Under. 4.5's a lot.
I thought he was going to say weeks.
I thought he was going to say hours. I'm like, well, it's going to be more than that. But
well, the way they're talking, they make it. It seems like Tallahassee's going to get wiped off the map. I don't know.
Jeez, don't scare me on here.
Well, I just watched the Weather Channel, and they keep saying devastation, record-breaking storm, and I'm like,
Cantori's there.
The way the football team's working, maybe wiping Tallahassee off the map might not be the worst idea.
I was having a text with one of my family members, my father, and said, things happen in football seasons. No, that'd be too much.
It does make me want to bring up though the first song that FSU played at practice, "Rock Me Like a Hurricane."
Don't know.
Way to fit the moment. No, I like it. I like the confidence. It's not going to work, but I like the confidence.
Yeah, we need that magnet to pull through, push through and push it away. But I don't know. About to find out. But yeah, I don't know. Nick Saban's Nick Saban. He's trying to get used to this whole thing, and maybe he's good at bringing in
ESPN.
some ratings like all these other
with
guys.
ESPN now. So
what was Kirk Herbstreit doing? Kirk Herbstreit, what? So first off, they didn't put FSU versus Cal onto the College Game Day picks because we have a weekly piece, and the rest of the beat usually does as well, getting out of College Game Day, who picks who, and Florida State. But no FSU versus Cal. And Kirk Herbstreit, there was some, and I missed it, but he definitely is loving it. I mean, he did some. I don't know if he was doing the chop. I think he was doing the chop on College Game Day at some point.
You act like I give him any attention on that show anymore.
I just see it on Twitter. I don't expect you to be watching that, but I just see it on Twitter. Someone in the chat will probably be able to confirm that, but I know he's eating up with his dog that we see enough of. I love dogs, but we see enough of it, Kirk.
Herbstreit, a dog, and peanut butter.
You're just expecting like you not to have internet for weeks and weeks, so we don't see you. The show started off, and
He's got me blocked on Twitter, so I mean, it is what it is.
I can't believe he's blocked. He tweeted so many things and quote tweeted him of like the worst things I know is going to drive and like piss off FSU fans to go after him, and he still hasn't had me blocked yet. So I'm not lucky.
Well, with the new Twitter feature, he'll be able to see all your tweets again here soon, D'Lo.
Ooh, you can sell your tweets. I don't
Sell my tweets.
See, view, watch, whatever you want to classify it as.
The block feature.
Yeah, they're changing it. I don't know why.
I'm unblocked.
Yeah. Not unblocked. You'll still be blocked, but he'll be able to see your tweets. He just can't reply to them.
Oh, that's why is
it should be I can see his tweets, but I can't reply to him.
Yeah, that's Elon.
He can't reply to me. Oh, it's over. He can't reply to me.
Oh gosh. Let's jump into some NFL Noles, gentlemen. Start off with number one here. Keon Coleman happened on Monday night for the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. He grabbed his first NFL career touchdown. Tried to do a dance there. He answered after the game that he's not a big dancing guy. Didn't really have a celebration plan, but he got into a groove there a little bit. But yeah, Keon Coleman and them trying to build more of a connection. But you know, the Bills have so many targets for Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is having an excellent start to the season as well. So they got a good team, but they put a beat down on former FSU DB Jarian Jones, who actually got injured in that game's shoulder injury. Looked at an update earlier today. He's back out there on the field for Jacksonville, so he looks like he's going to be fine, and hopefully he'll be good to go this upcoming weekend. But Keon Coleman, gentlemen, going to be fun for Josh Allen.
First and many. We've been waiting a couple weeks too long, and Keon finally has that first NFL touchdown. You got to imagine that rapport between him and Josh Allen is just going to continue to grow. It seems like those two guys are making it a point to connect, and you know, there's been a couple clips surfacing around of look like Josh Allen ignoring Keon on the sideline or stuff. I just wouldn't believe everything you see on social media. You know, that's going to be a fun connection to watch for years to come.
And then jumping over to a few other guys, I'll go to another wide receiver, Johnny Wilson. He is finally got his first NFL catch, and it was actually for a first down gain, 9-yard gain there. And they were put on, I think, their own, like in between their own, like
they were backed 15.
Up. Yeah, they were backed up near their, near their end zone too as well. But a big time conversion there from Johnny Wilson, and showed some, physicality and some speed there, and wasn't just a big lanky guy that Jalen Hurts was throwing to. So I'm interested to see if they start and try to utilize him more. Definitely with Devontae Smith getting injured and being concussed in a brutal hit from the Saints, a nasty hit and nasty spitting too as well. Spat on Devontae Smith. That was some nasty stuff.
And I didn't see that part.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of replays of that, but AJ Brown's been out the last couple of weeks too, so someone's got to play in that receiver room at some point.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for him to step up, and the Eagles, they don't have a ton of proven guys beyond that. Maybe Jahan Dotson, but he obviously hasn't done too much early in his NFL career. So, we'll see how it goes. Johnny could potentially break into this rotation, and we'll see what happens.
Cam Akers scored there for the Houston Texans, and which was also a pretty bad beating there.
It was awesome.
Yeah, wow, you loved it there as a Vikings fan.
It was the perfect situation for me. The Vikings were up, I don't know, at that point, maybe 21-0, 28-0. Cam Akers, sure, get a touchdown. Why not? It's not going to matter. Love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You can be happy in both ways for your guys and your former FSU guys.
And a former Viking. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it's good all around. And, do you think Sam Darnold's you think that's your quarterback? You think you got him? You think you got your QB now?
For this year.
Still want JJ? You ready to go with JJ, huh? Who you rather have now, JJ or Sam Darnold? You can't go back to go draft another quarterback.
Whoever KOC wants, that's fine with me.
Oh, okay.
I trust him to get the guys open. But right now, if the season ends today, Sam Darnold's your MVP. That's all I'm going to say.
Am
I right? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If the season collapsed tomorrow because of this hurricane, takes out the whole United States, Darnold's your MVP.
Takes out the whole United States.
Jesus.
Saquon Barkley.
What?
But no. I mean, I'm not gonna give you a hard time. I'm not giving you a hard time. Look at me. Look what I got on my hat. I'm not giving you a hard time.
We're both 3-0. We're 3-0.
We're both 3-0. We have no problem. We're not even rivals with one another. Y'all give me no problems. I give you no problems usually. Steelers.
Keyword usually.
Yeah, Vikings 3-0. My quarterback, Justin Fields, seems like he could be our answer there moving forward. I did not expect this. I did not expect it at all, but here we are. And both teams could end up going 4-0 here to start. And I think it's just us, you, Bills, Chiefs, and I'm missing someone else. Seattle. Wow.
Yeah. That's a surprising one too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is. And then one last thing here I want to mention is also Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. There's a stat out from Next Gen Stats. They are the rookie pressure leaders so far in this 2024 NFL season. Braden Fisk at number 1 with 12 quarterback pressures, and right below him at 11 is Jared Verse. Those two guys, Sean McVay has to be so happy about what they did in the NFL draft and going after these two guys. And, that's what they needed to replace what they had there with Aaron Donald. They're having a phenomenal start for the Rams, who also had a big time comeback win there for the LA Rams.
And if we're going to talk Braden Fisk, he also set a Rams record, become the first Rams rookie to ever recover fumbles in back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I felt, someone, maybe he can throw some tape up to FSU and FSU's defense cover a ball. That would help quite a bit and help a lot of things. But yeah, no, those two guys absolutely balling there for the Rams. And Sean McVay, man, I think those players love playing for him as a coach. And, it always seems like he'd be a cool guy to hang around. So Jared Verse, Braden Fisk balling over there, and interested to see definitely once the Rams get fully healthy. Right now, they're down bad in injuries, and they're still able to come away, and they beat the 49ers at home, which really wasn't at home. There was a ton of 49ers fans taking over that entire stadium. But once that team gets fully healthy, well, let's watch and see what Braden Fisk and Jared Verse can do to take the Rams, see if they can get into the playoffs. Anything else from you guys on NFL Noles? There wasn't a whole ton else that I thought was worth mentioning.
Well, I feel like we need to talk Derwin real quick and that crazy situation, getting suspended for a game for repeated illegal contact. And the hit that they've referenced was kind of 50-50 for being so mad. Like the letter they released was scathing. I was like, they were mad. I thought he full on helmet dove into somebody. It was kind of, he was already leaning one way and just tried to make a play. That one was interesting to me.
Yeah, it was a bad tackle. If you guys know in context here, is facing the Steelers. He had already been dealing with these I guess you can say warnings previously from the NFL saying, these hits that you're doing isn't a part of our policy here. We're going to give you these warnings. And then they finally said, all right, bad hit, which I wish I could pull it up here. It's over the middle as a safety. To me, it's a clean hit there. I never really stood out to us during the game as well either. It's just, he's a physical player. Tony Romo and a lot of the guys they're calling the game too are giving him a lot of love because of his physicality that it brings down. He's like a heat-seeking missile, physical safety, and he's known for that. But the league's getting to be a sissy league, and it was my Steelers too. And I don't have a problem with it.
They're treating him like he's Vontaze Perfect, and he's just not that kind of player.
Yeah, he's playing with football technique. If he's out here just going for helmets and trying to cause injuries and such, yes, absolutely. But the dude and the letter they gave, man, that was like some nasty stuff there. I felt like from them. So suspended a whole game, no pay.
Deshaun Watson ain't suspended.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice ain't suspended.
Rashee Rice ain't suspended.
Nope. Good points there, D-Lo. You need to talk to Roger Goodell.
Get him on the podcast. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of the podcast, hopefully get on a former Nole. I ran into Myron Roll on a walk yesterday evening. So random. Just ran, and I was walking by, and I said, "Wait, is that Myron?" And he looked at me. I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's Myron." He was looking at me,
like
and
peeking from the bushes.
No, it was actually like in a trolley cart going down the pier here in St. Petersburg, and he was by himself, and I probably looked like a freak, like, "Hey, is that Myron?" And I was like walking by. Probably like a freak, but hopefully I told him, "Hey, we gotta get you on here, the spirit of the fans, and interview from you." But he's over here doing some stuff at the Children's Hospital at John Hopkins doing neurology stuff. D-Lou, can you imagine doing that? Doing neurology surgeon stuff?
The people don't want me to do that. The people that I would do it to don't want me to do that. So I'll leave that to Myron Roll. I mean, he's obviously, man, such a smart guy, and he's carved out such a awesome career outside of football, and everything that he was able to do at Florida State beforehand. He's obviously worked extremely hard to get into the medical field. And man, I can't wait to have him on the podcast. What I am wondering is, you said he was in this trolley cart, and you obviously had to talk to him and say who you are and blah blah, get the contact information. Was this trolley cart continuing while this conversation was happening?
Are you just walking alongside it?
I was in a slight jog. Hey, is that Myron? And I turn around and I'm like, "Hey, Myron, hey, real quick, we talk." And I start jogging down. No. Luckily, it was stopped. And it was like I was at the point where they were definitely about to leave. And I was like, do I get on with him, even though I already walked the entire pier? But do I get on and put him in an awkward position where he has to talk to me for the next 5 minutes of this ride down the trolley? And I was like, quick and easy handshakes, get information, get the goal, and try to get him on board to hear the spear. But yeah, that would have been bad. Would have been really awkward. All right, let's jump into this preview, gentlemen. How are we feeling after 4 games? Just to get a feeling from you guys. Like, what is are you like, where do you think this team can, will we see a switch flip for them, or is this a team that's going to be the same until we get through December, and there has to be literally a new team that comes in 2025? Because I think this will be telling for sure. Like, yes, they just got their first win, and like I said, score predictions will say definitely a lot more than what I'll say now, but that was not a great Cal team. But could a win maybe have changed something up? I don't know. I'm just interested to see where you guys are at, and maybe what you are thinking that the team's mentality is after 4 games and losing 3 of them.
Yeah, I think to me, it seems like the defense is kind of beginning to figure things out. And, you look at what Adam Fuller has done the last 2 games, and he hasn't been afraid to make some changes on that defense. We talked about the young DBs getting some more playing time against Cal. You saw Sione have a much closer to 50-50 snap count with Marvin Jones Jr. in this past game. Blake Nicholson leads the linebackers with 50 snaps. I think DJ Lundy was second with 36. So you saw the sophomore linebacker lead that unit in playing time by a pretty good margin. And, KJ Kirkland making his second start over Conrad Hussey and Devontae Brown at that other safety spot opposite of Shaheem. So, like, the defensive side of the ball, Florida State, they haven't been afraid to tinker and try out new things, and that seems to be working a little bit. I felt like the defense played good enough against Memphis to win that game, and then the same thing against Cal. It's the offense right now that is losing football games for Florida State, and we can talk about it. I mean, 60 points in 4 games so far. You're trending down in the last 3, I guess maybe up after Saturday. 13 points against Boston College, 12 against Memphis, and bumps back up to 14 against Cal. But Florida State, I mean, they haven't scored over 20 points in a game since August. And now you're going on the road, your first true road game against an offense that has proven it can put points on the scoreboard at a minimum. I don't know if they're going to put up 66 against Florida State, but they can definitely score some points. So they've got to figure out something here. And I think what's frustrating is the first half against Cal was the most balanced first half we'd seen from Florida State so far this season, and they only had 7 points. They only walked away from it with 7 points, and some of that was on what happened between the lines, but also, like we mentioned, some of those coaching decisions as well. So, I feel like the offense, they can't be afraid, like the defense, to try some new things out with the personnel and the play calling and the decision making. I feel like from Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins' side, that's simply got to be better for this Florida State offense. You've got to know what you're working with, and when an offense has only scored, we'll have to look at back from the last couple of games. But I mean, 2 out of 11 times against Cal, when you're in these positions to take those field goals that can potentially at that time give you a touchdown lead, maybe even further. If you would have took both of them, you're looking at a 13-3 ball game at that point. But you took none of them. Take the points when they're there, because you haven't proven that you can get a lot of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we talked about those field goal decisions on Saturday night. I didn't hate punting that first time because it was what, a 59-yarder into the wind. Like, that's a tough ask that early in the game. I didn't hate that decision to punt there. The second one, absolutely needed to kick it. There was no reason not to. The offense isn't good enough to think you can pick up a 4th and 7. It's just not. The defense, like you just mentioned, they've made a ton of strides the last couple of weeks. The defensive line is finally showing up. The linebackers are starting to play with some energy. The secondary is starting to play with some energy and a little bit better communication. Things still can get better there, but it's much better than we've seen in the first 2 games. But the offense has been so bad that I don't have much confidence going forward, depending on some changes, not only to bring in some youth and seeing a youth movement, but also just seeing some mentality switches and some scheme switches and creative play calling, because we're just not seeing any of that right now.
Last 4 games for SMU, 29-24 against Nevada. They played the Houston Christian Huskies, which was 59-7, but then they faced BYU, who scored 18. It was 18-15 there. And then SMU's last game, like Dustin was just talking about, put up 66 points, also allowed 42 from TCU, but Lashley can put up some points there for the Mustangs. And I'm just wondering if, like y'all are all saying here, the offense can keep up. That's my biggest question. That's what we talked about in the instant reaction last Saturday.
I mean, yes, they scored 66 points, and this might be a hot take. Their offense doesn't scare me, which, again, they just scored 66. That might be insane to say. But if you look at it, they turned over TCU 5 times. So that's 5 short fields, plus another forced fumble that they didn't recover. So they could have had 6. And then they had, 375 yards of offense, which, is, a decent amount. But when you see 66 points, you're thinking 600, 700 yards of offense. I feel like 375 yards is just okay. They're a great running team, especially in the games where they've put up points, like in Houston Christian and TCU. Both games they scored a lot. Both games are averaging well over 5 yards per carry. 238 rushing yards against TCU, almost 400 yards rushing against Houston Christian, but that's an FCS team. Doesn't really matter. In the other 2 games, Nevada and BYU, only 100 yards rushing against Nevada. They somehow come back and win that game after being down, 13 to... I don't even know where my score sheet went. They're down 24-13 entering the 4th quarter and came back to win 29-24. Kind of got lucky there at the end. They have these moments on offense where they're just not good. They've made a quarterback change recently, going away from Preston Stone. If Florida State can find a way to stop the run, which they struggled with in the first 2 games, but they've been better the last 2 games, I'd feel decent about it.
Yeah, the quarterback change is the big thing about SMU. You can kind of throw the first 2.5 games or so out of the window, because now, like Austin said, they've replaced Stone with Jennings and, redshirt sophomore, much more mobile dual threat guy. And he's going to, he had to kind of just manage the game against TCU, his first start of the season, only ended up going 14 out of 19 for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then you look at the ground, you had running back Brashard Smith with 127 yards, but then your second leading rusher is Kevin Jennings. And, we've seen Florida State struggle with mobile quarterbacks, some this season, some in the past, and they're going to have another one to prepare for in Jennings. So, we'll see. Florida State especially in those games against Georgia Tech and Boston College, the opposing team didn't have to throw the ball a ton because of how much success they were having on the ground. That's exactly what SMU is going to want to do on offense, averaging over 200 rushing yards per game and what's a pretty balanced offensive attack for the most part. But priority one is to run the football in Florida State. And, if the Seminoles can force them into some longer situations, get them behind the chains on first and second down, we'll see if maybe they can force Jennings into some mistakes.
Question here: what did BYU do to stop them? BYU is a good team this season. I didn't get to watch a lot of BYU this year, though, but just going off some of their highlights.
And part of it was just turning SMU over. I mean, they forced 3 turnovers in that game. And, that's big with any football game. If you can force turnovers, you're going to control the game almost all the time. But on the flip side, SMU's defense has forced 11 turnovers in the last 3 games, 8 in the last 2. It's a very aggressive defense that is very opportunistic, kind of the opposite of what Florida State's been to start this season. But it's going to be an interesting matchup to see if Florida State's defense actually has risen up to the challenge. And obviously, when you think BYU, you think, big beefy defensive lineman. I'm sure that has something to do with it.
And sticking with the BYU game, I think some of the reason they struggled in that one, and BYU, they are a good team this year, and you're looking at defense and impress. I mean, just knocked off Kansas State, blew out Kansas State over the weekends. I mean, they've impressed early on, but SMU a little bit off schedule because this was kind of when they made that quarterback change. Preston Stone started, went 3 and out on his first 2 drives, and from there, Kevin Jennings kind of replaced him. So, I wonder, the game plan and having to replace your starting quarterback so early on in that one, if that kind of just threw things off tilt a little bit. And, we did see how they bounced back last week. Obviously, like Austin said, didn't have a really explosive offensive game. They had a touchdown in the special teams game, had 2 defensive touchdowns that kind of helped there on the scoreboard. But, I mean, this is an offense that can do enough to win football games while they rely on that defense to stop teams on the ground and, like Austin has said, force a lot of turnovers.
Mm-hmm. For Florida State, it's all going to come down to Florida State's offense. It's great. Florida State's defense.
Yep.
I think they can show up as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to Mike Norvell, the play calling, DJ there at quarterback, and what they can do to try to get down the field and show some kind of I don't know, decency now at this point that they can be a Power 4 offense and the ACC. And just watching it, it was just bad football that we were watching this last weekend against a not so great Cal team, and it's going to come down
the weekend before and the weekend before.
It just keeps going and going and going, and that's what makes me, worry about how long this game could last. You're going in a hostile environment. SMU is going to bring it. They've been looking for this kind of opportunity for a lot of years to get into a conference and face these brand names of a team like Florida State, and they're going to get this opportunity here. And I just don't know if this team defensively, yes, there's some young dogs there, but I just don't know if the offense just feels the kind of courage to go out there and perform with what they have there at quarterback. And I understand we want to see, another guy, Brock Glenn, back there if there's an opportunity. But, Mike Norvell is going to continue rolling with this until they figure out if they can make it to a bowl game or not. And this should be very true telling because Florida State's going to go on a pretty brutal stretch here, gentlemen. You go and you face SMU. Then you got Clemson. I think this Duke game is going to be, for what Florida State, the way that they're playing, that's going to be a good game. And then none of these games for the rest of the schedule are going to be easy. I don't care if it's Charleston Southern. When you have no offense and you're relying on defense, unless they're getting some takeaways and they're getting some fumble sixes and pick sixes, I just don't see where this Florida State football team is going to be able to score 20 points at the moment. And that's just where it's at. We can't really say adjustments have been really made on the offensive side of the ball, and consistencies there with DJ, and you have some offensive line ups and downs and woes and such, but I don't know. This offense doesn't give me anything to where I'm like, yes, Florida State I like the adjustments they've made. They can put up points and compete for to give Florida State a chance to win on the road.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of to continue along with the offensive woes, dating back to kickoff against Boston College, Florida State has scored on just 8 of its 32 offensive possessions. And I believe 4 of those would be field goals. So we're talking about 4 touchdown drives and 32 possessions. I mean, that's not good. I mean,
that's not great. That's not great.
It's kind of hard to be this bad on offense in modern college football. I mean, it's kind of impressive. I mean, when you look at some of these numbers, Florida State right there with the worst teams in the country as far as points scored. You look at the rushing offense, the rushing average.
It'd be tough to watch another team be worse than this. Like it was really, really rough, ladies and gentlemen, to watch that on TV. I can fully understand where people want to turn that off, but I mean that was bad, and I just we've had the conversation though for plenty of weeks now. We've talked about the quarterback position. Everybody knows our takes on it, and we would just be running into the ground and such until Mike Norvell wants to do something. Then we'll see a quarterback change, but right now, I think all 3 of us on here, we don't have hope for that something is going to flip a switch. And everybody was looking, hey, maybe Hakeem Williams getting back in the offense, that could get things going. DJ and him can connect, and those will be doing well. That's going to change the whole thing. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Alex Atkins, though, is getting back out there on the sideline. That's going to do well. That's going to change it. I mean, nothing to me right now shows me that Florida State has to score a minimum of 25 points to have a chance at winning this game against.
I don't know if it's that high, but they've got to at least show some signs of life, which they've looked dead to start this season. That's really the only way to put it. At least the running game started to show something against Cal. If you just look at the running backs, they average about 4.6 yards per carry, and that's better than it had been, but it's still not what we expect from Florida State's running game. They're going to have to be better in this game. We can keep saying the pass game needs to be better, but I've lost hope on that. I don't expect anything to change there whatsoever. I don't expect them to improve. It just is what it is at this point. They're gonna have to win games, 12-9 pretty much all year.
And the running game, man, I mean, it's starting to get beat up. We haven't even mentioned yet on the podcast, but Roydell Williams, he missed the win against Cal. Pre-game, we spotted him down there with a boot on his foot, and he wasn't someone that Mike Norvell spoke about leading up to the game as dealing with an injury. But earlier this week, Mike Norvell said that Roydell is expected to be out for an extended period of time. Didn't go into real specifics on the injury or how it occurred or anything like that. But that's a big loss for FSU. I mean, Williams obviously was your starting running back early on this season. Jalen Lucas out for the season as well. And, Lawrence Toafili, he just hasn't simply looked right to me since that long run against Memphis. And he had a bulky brace on his knee at practice last week. And, in the post-game presser, Mike Norvell alluded as much that, he practiced through some stuff last week. And, he was really proud that he was able to put that effort into the game. We saw Cam Davis go down in the win against Cal. So it feels like quickly – you're starting to get some bangs and bruises back there in that backfield. You look at the offensive line. We still don't know yet if Robert Scott and Jeremiah Byers are going to be able to play this weekend. Florida State, already dealing with some injuries amidst the struggles. So it just makes it even tougher to kind of figure out this situation.
I say we jump into some best bets, gentlemen, because we went 3-1 last weekend. 3-1. Do you know which ones hit there, Elu?
I know we lost the +2.5.
Yeah. Lost that spread, but
shout out Cal's kick for missing 2 chip shots but making a 51-yarder. Come on, man.
I don't remember my wins, only my losses.
The wins, those we got the under on the total points. We also
we did.
Yeah. We
got the first possession punt correctly. That was the easiest one in the world.
Yeah, I love doing that in the NFL too. Usually on the Carolina Panthers, but they screwed me this week, of course. Thanks, Andy Dalton, you mother. And then under on Florida State's total points, which was at 23.5, easy cash. And those were our 3 wins, but our loss there was the +2.5 California spread.
No, here comes the rain.
Uh-oh.
We got about 10 more minutes of power. We got to hurry.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, Dustin's ready to say adios. See ya. But we'll see. Hey, 3-1. I think that's our best of the year so far. We'll see if we can go 4-0 this weekend. There's not a lot of options. I don't think we have touchdowns either this week, so we're pretty limited, gentlemen. Here's the over/under, though. 47.5 is the over right now.
Under.
Over. Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Guess we're not betting the over/under this week.
Whoa. I mean, we don't have much here.
With all the points?
SMU's favored by 6 points.
Wait, so you think FSU is going to score so little they don't get the over? Oh, it's a nod.
I think
the under is a shoe-in.
Let's just look at a few things.
I think you're crazy.
They're projecting Florida State to have 21 points.
Under
on it.
Under.
Dang, that was quick.
I can agree with that one.
Okay.
Which means they're going to have SMUs at what, 25.5, 26.5, something like that.
First half total points, 24. Is that one worth doing there?
Let me look at some SMU stat sheets. Hold on. I didn't think about this one.
Let me just go ahead and wait. Am I allowed to do that now? Or do I wait?
You're giving the SMU money line? Oh, man.
Let's see. So SMU TCU was it was a lot to a little at halftime. 41-21, I think, at half, if I'm doing my quick math correctly.
Yeah, no, it was a lot in the last game. I know that.
But they had a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown in the first half.
The BYU SMU game was 9-7 at halftime, so that's 16. The Houston Baptist game we don't need to talk about.
Yeah.
And then the Nevada game was 17-10, so that's 27 total.
And that was a different quarterback.
Yeah.
Important to note.
I would say under, but I'm not that strong about it.
I'd rather just bet on the first drive again if we can. Punt for Florida State.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely do that.
Scoring.
I'd say ride with that one till
score every quarter for FSU.
No, there we go.
No, it's minus. Ew, it's too low though. It's way too low. Minus 520.
I'm surprised the yes is only plus 350.
Yeah, the yes needs to be plus 3,500.
Yeah, that's messed up, dude. What the? Hold on. Let's see if we.
There's got to be.
What's SMU's total points here? 26.5. Yeah, I don't see the first drive on here. Winning margin.
So they just take away the bets we win every week.
Yeah, they're watching this. Yeah. They're saying, "Oh, they know Florida State a little too well."
Yeah, they're taking this away from us.
Damn you, FanDuel.
But we wouldn't mind if you wanted to come in here and not allow Hard Rock to be a monopoly. We're pretty bare bones here, gentlemen. They've taken away almost everything after the third game that they saw Florida State play against Memphis. Everything since then. No anytime touchdowns, no receiving yards, nothing whatsoever.
No fun.
We've got to pick something in here.
I'm hard on the under on everything.
All right. Well, I'm not. So you can.
How about we go up and we push in a little bit? We can go in. How about we go to? You want to go to 49.5?
Well, that hurt the odds if we're going to go.
Yeah,
under.
But I mean, we can.
You'd want to go. You'd want to go closer, like 45. How confident? How low will Austin go?
I don't know.
You can go for a ways.
Really?
I'd stick at like 48.5.
Dustin's over here bewildered at the score I'm going to put.
What's the over under now, Logan? Isn't it 47.5? Or
yeah, it's 46.5.
So you went up?
Yeah, I'm going up a little bit. I'm giving myself a little cushion here and going under still. I'm gonna go to 48.5.
I still want to know where Austin's going with the over under. Like, is it below 40?
Oh yeah.
Dang.
what is going to happen in this game?
We don't know. We're going to find out
Jesus.
here. All right, let's finish this up, though, gentlemen. We've got 2 bets in. We can get at least one more, right? SMU totals points, 26.5. Alternate total points.
You're giving away score predictions.
Well, there's not much we can do now.
Yeah, they took away everything good from us.
Yep.
Do you like Florida State plus 6.5?
Barely. Or no, you're saying spread wise?
Yeah.
No, I would take SMU.
SMU and you want to take them by, or do you want to just do some spread here and do maybe 6.5 plus 6.5 on the spread?
No.
If you go to the other side, you can pick SMU to win by like, I don't know, 10. Oh, you clicked off of it.
Do you want to go to?
I'm just wondering how far he's going to go. Like, look, all right.
I can't give everything away.
I'd be fine with putting this in here. I'd be fine with throwing this in right here.
I'll let you. You got to go first and score predictions anyway. I'll let you save it.
Yeah,
easy got it. We're at a plus 220. I think this is fun. We're going in SMU's favor here.
How is that any different from the last few weeks?
Nothing different. I mean, I'm right now. I'm winning one.
Logan picked FSU.
Yeah, picked FSU. It's not happening again this week though. But all right, $10 gets you. This won't be a big payout kind of day for you, but $10, 22. But if you want to do 1,000, you get $2,000. So think about it in that way. We can double your money up. But we've got Florida State's total points under 20.5. We've got alternate total points at a 48.5 on the under. So below 49 points scored. And then we got SMU minus 6.5 on their spread. So that's our best bet parlay for everyone that's involved on that. That's the best bets. Hopefully we'll see. We went 3-1 last week. We'll see how these do. I don't know. This is going to be a weird game, I feel like. So we'll see. Let's go into the score predictions. VZ, I think you're up first on us. You have the floor. I'm interested to see what this score is going to be.
Yeah, if you haven't realized by now, it's going to be a low total. Yeah. Like I said at the beginning of the preview, I feel like their game against TCU is an anomaly. 66 points is not happening again. I've grown on Florida State's defense. I think they've come a long way. Florida State's offense absolutely sucks. I hate watching it. This is the most I've hated watching offense, I think, ever.
Any team.
And I've watched Gus Frerotte play quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. I've watched Joe Webb play quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and he was a wide receiver. So I've seen some bad football. This is right down there at the bottom of it. But again, I think SMU's last SMU game was an outlier, but that team's going to be fired up. It's their first ACC game, and it's at home, and it's against a major brand in Florida State. And even if they're not, if Florida State's not at the level they've been or where they expected to be, it's still Florida State. Florida State's still such a massive brand.
Mm-hmm.
I've got SMU winning 20-10. So for the quick math folks, that's a total of 30.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely.
I mean, you got to think Florida State. We already talked about it. Florida State has scored 13 points, 12 points, and 14 points the last 3 weeks, and I think SMU's defense is a little bit better than what they've seen the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Better environment as well. They're going to be going into.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game for Florida State. First true road game, and obviously just dealing with so much offensive ineptitude. I mean, it's crazy. I knew this unit, there was a chance for it to struggle earlier in the year. And, we talked about from the beginning, we thought the defense was going to kind of lead the pack early on, but I did not know that it was going to be this bad for the Seminoles on offense. I mean, just haven't been able to establish consistency in any area, whether it's on the ground, through the air. I mean, you're just not able to get anything going, very consistently. We'll see if maybe that starts to turn around this weekend, maybe getting their first win that kind of instills some life into the guys. I felt like it was a pretty good week of practice for Florida State. Like I said, water breaks were up, especially for the defense. But, again, SMU, I just feel like they're going to put too many points on the board at the end of the day. I think you're going to see some positive signs from Florida State's defense, but this is going to be one that the offense loses for Florida State. I'll go SMU 28, Florida State 17.
Oh, you freak. Did you see my DM to you of my score prediction earlier today?
No.
So why didn't you want to do the under 46.5? Because that's 45.
Because I made a gut choice.
See?
We upped the score total for nothing.
Yeah, well, that was Logan's idea, not mine.
What? How's this all go on me? I shaved mine and changed mine up for everybody last week, everything like that. I was there. Now Dustin won't do it.
All right, fine. SMU 31, FSU 17. There you go.
Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. No, we're very close on your original score prediction there. Very, very close, just off by 1 point in total. I have SMU 28, FSU 16 for this one.
16, so funky number. I like it.
I know. I like that number. I like that. First, getting over there to Dallas.
I don't know how they're scoring 16, I'll be honest, but I kind of like the idea.
You think they're going to let Ryan kick 3 field goals?
I know. I just thought about that. Is Mike Norvell going to screw me here? I got screwed on my parlays all weekend off of idiotic coaching decisions on not just taking the field goal. Idiots, complete idiots. And Mike, that was a silly thing, that the decision before halftime last time, just don't do it to me in this game. Although I can't even bet anyways on Ryan Fitzgerald, but Ryan Fitzgerald does deserve, if it's within a 55, technically radius, I'm giving Ryan Fitzgerald the shot. He made it.
If it's 16 points, it's more likely to be 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions. Let's just be honest.
That's just a funky score, and I'm keeping what they got. But yeah, like everybody said here, it's going to come down to the offense. Don't really need to say anything more. Where then, if these scores are correct and FSU gets beat in this fashion, it's just kind of at the point where, like, what's the point now? Mike's going to continue to roll out DJ, and there's no kind of change of looking ahead to 2025. I guess they're still going to figure out if they're going to win some games to get in. Now it's like, are you just keeping DJ out there to play against Clemson so he can have his game against Dabo or whatever, which I think is going to be absolutely horrific. Like I just said, that the thumbnail's this reason why, and why I have this up here. It's about to get ugly. Like, if FSU fans thought it was bad these last 4 games, it's about to get even worse. It's about to get bad, and it's going to start here on the road against SMU, and unless something changes offensively. But right now, nothing shows us that that's going to happen.
Yep, the meat of the schedule has arrived. We thought Florida State would be able to take advantage of this early portion and hopefully come out of it undefeated, and that obviously didn't happen in the least. But now you're really getting to the tough part. Go to SMU, come home and face Clemson, bye week, go on the road to Duke on a Friday night, go on the road to Miami. So 3 of your next 4 are on the road. Come home, face North Carolina, and then go back out on the road to Notre Dame. And right now, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Miami obviously all sit inside the top 20. Miami inside the top 10, and I'm sure they're going to be wanting to get their first win against Florida State and since 2021. So we'll see how it goes. Florida State, maybe this first victory can start to give them some of that momentum, but they've got to figure things out, because it's just going to get tougher from here.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Appreciate everybody listening with us. Make sure you smack that like button. Would definitely appreciate it. As always, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that like button. We'll be here for a Saturday instant reaction. Maybe I can join via phone, but these guys will be hosting it, and we'll give our thoughts. Hopefully I can join in. We'll see if Dustin will even be able to watch the game.
It might just be a solo instant reaction for me, which nobody wants.
Yeah, it might be VZ, and he's just going to tell you this team blows.
Maybe I can get someone else.
Maybe so. But if not, I'll be able to maybe hop on the phone, and there's a lot of good breweries up there in Asheville. So watching this team, it does make you want to have a cold one in your hand to be able to get through it. But if everybody's heading over there, safe travels to Dallas. If you are going to be there, have fun.
It's a fun city. Go to Pecan Lodge, the best barbecue in town.
Really Pecan Lodge is fire. Yeah. Pecan Lodge is very good.
Pecan.
All right.
No. Pecan.
You guys don't like pecan?
It's pecan.
Pecan Lodge.
Agree to disagree, buddy.
Some
pecan pie.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody enjoy the rest of y'all's week. Safe travels.
Stay safe.
Safe travels to getting out of Tallahassee and wherever you're evacuating to, if so, and if you're hunkering down like Dustin is, wishing you the best. Dustin, any advice to anybody hunkering down? What did you do to prepare for this storm?
Just nothing. I didn't do anything.
You did do your lawn yesterday. I don't know why you did your lawn and you made up your whole yard just for a Cat 4 hurricane.
I didn't want the blades of grass to break my windows.
Yeah, just don't do what Dustin's doing there. But yeah, hope everybody makes it through fine. And yeah, we'll see you Saturday. It's gonna be another late night one there, but we'll be there for our instant reaction. Florida State versus SMU. Have a great rest of y'all's week.